Good morning, councillors, staff and guests, and welcome to our ordinary council meeting for May. We start by paying acknowledgement to the Gadigal people, the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, and pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and pay our respects to all Indigenous people throughout the Southern Downs. Today we have Reverend Lizzie Gaskell joining us for prayer.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Mayor Melissa.
Good morning, Lizzie.
You might notice that I am not my curate who was due to be here today. He is training in Brisbane, so you have to bear with me. Today I had done up a little reflection titled Ubuntu and the Team. A few years ago, the revered Anglican Archbishop Desmond Tutu of South Africa and his very good friend the Dalai Lama, with their Jewish friend Douglas Abrams, co-wrote a book which I loaned to somebody and never got back. And I was thinking about that the other day and wondering who on earth I had loaned it to, but I thought I must buy another copy because it feels right to reread it now. You'll understand why when I tell you the title. The title was The Book of Joy, Lasting Happiness in a Changing World. In the Book of Joy, which was published about 10 years ago, Archbishop Tutu raised an idea that was important in African thinking and shapes the idea in African culture and thought about what it means to be human. It was a complex little word that captured layers of meaning, and the word was Ubuntu. Effectively, this means a person is a person because of other people. Or put another way, the truest measure of our humanity and the effectiveness of our communities is when all people have mutual respect and dignity and equal access to justice and compassion. Now, for me as a Christian person, this is akin to Jesus' teaching on the kingdom of God. It is not a place, but a way of being human that transforms the world through the gentle art of mutual and accountable love. Which sounds very delightful, doesn't it? But it is difficult work. And you have to be in it for the long haul to change hearts, to change minds, to change habits, and to change culture. Ubuntu. The headlines of the world at the moment don't seem to be singing that song an awful lot. Leaders are flexing their political muscles and seem, in some cases, highly unaccountable to anybody, let alone themselves. A few years ago, a former President of the United States was being impeached. In an interview at the time, he said to journalists, "Here's the thing, there's talk about teams. I don't have teams. Everybody's talking about them, but I'm the team. And I did nothing wrong." That sounds like something current occupants of that role might have. You might be right. Well, other more learned people than I get to make decisions on the legal scores and the rights and the wrongs. But it was the underpinning of I'm the team that got me thinking. For me, that contrasts jarringly with Archbishop Tutu's idea of Ubuntu, doesn't it? I'm the team. Good leaders within communities surely know just how much they are connected to others, and that any power that we have been given should be used to help others, whether that is advocating for better resourced and affordable housing or aged care, the welfare of young people, or the affordability of the essentials, food and water and utilities in this very beautiful part of the world. A good leader knows that they are not the team. They're just a part of it, and a part that's connected to others in care and in humility. It's the arrogance and the unreality of that I'm the team statement that got to me. There is no community there. There is no interconnectedness. There is no I am because we are. The chilling thing is that it's not the first time that kind of statement has been made. Very long time ago, Louis XIV of France said, "L'État C'est moi. I am the state, or I am the nation. I'm the team, is what Louis XIV was saying. It seems to point to a fundamental disconnect from the world in which president and king live. Whether it's because they deem themselves better than, not answerable to it, scarcely seems to matter. The impact on the people they should have been serving is the same. My money's on the Archbishop for a better way to be human. I think he has a perspective that is healthier for us in the here and the now. It's much more sustainable, though it takes much more dedication to make it a reality. The President and the King were not the team. They could not be, not truly, because as Archbishop Tutu understood, humans are relational beings. We only make sense in connection to each other. We are hardwired for relationship, for family, for friendship, for community. We need one another. Now we understand that theoretically, but how we live it is the thing that matters. And when we forget that as leaders, when we forget our connections, when we forget I am because you are, it's not just leaders that suffer. Everybody does. So let me pray for you. May God bless your continued leadership of this place with wisdom and with courage, with patience, to introduce change where it needs to happen and to see it done. May God bless you with mutual and accountable love. And may we as leaders in the Southern Downs remember, I am only because we are. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Amen. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you, Lizzie. Councillors, moving on to condolences. I'm going to start today with condolences for our former Mayor, Ron Bellingham. We extend our deepest sympathies and thoughts to Kath, Ron's wife of 65 years, his son Paul, his daughters Michelle and Diane, his grandchildren, his great-grandchild and his family and friends. Ron was born in Inglewood and spent his early years in Elbow Valley. He went to school in Elbow Valley and then to Warwick Central and Warwick State High. Ron was proud of his national service and did an apprenticeship before purchasing his first business in Killarney. Ron's family remembered at his service, his first brush with politics was when the tornado went through Killarney in November 1968, destroying Ron's business along with others in its path. Ron organised a delegation to Joe Bedelke-Peterson to get funding to help rebuild the town. It was part of his approach to just get things done. Ron served his community with distinction for more than a decade in local government leadership before retiring in 2012. He was elected as Mayor of Warwickshire Council in 2000, re-elected in 2004, and in 2008 became the first Mayor of the newly amalgamated Southern Downs Regional Council. He guided the significant transition that brought together the former Warwick and Stanthorpe shires, and as the first leader of this new council, played a pivotal role in shaping its direction and advocating for a united and prosperous region. A prominent and highly respected local businessman, Ron was a strong and tireless advocate for the Southern Downs. His passion for the region extended beyond the council chambers, including his service as chairman of Warwick Tourism and Events, where he worked to promote and strengthen tourism and the local economy. Ron was passionate about this region and in pride of place. Beyond his civic leadership, Ron was an active community member with long-standing involvement in the Lions Club and more recently Provis. Ron was incredibly helpful to me and generous with his time and good counsel, and I know he has mentored many of us here in this room. Ron never took sides and would help anyone who was interested in serving their community. Ron's leadership, vision and commitment to our community will be long remembered, and his contribution to the Southern Downs leaves a lasting legacy. Councillors, would anyone else like to speak in relation to Ron Bellingham, and then we'll move on to other condolences? Yes, Councillor Bartlett.
Yes, thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I served the 12 years with Ron Bellingham as my Mayor, and yeah, he was certainly inspirational. He made a lot of changes in Warwickshire and started the amalgamation process, which was a very difficult time, bringing Stanthorpe and Warwick together. But he did an amazing job of trying to heal the wounds. He was also an amazing neighbour. He was my neighbour for 25 years. So in saying that, certainly Ron will be missed within the community. He was always there for people to go and have a yarn to, and one thing Ron Bellingham was renowned for, if you couldn't find it anywhere else, you went to Ron Bellingham for a spare part, he would have it. And no matter what it was, Ron would find it. So he was known as our most reliable part supplier within the community, so he certainly will be missed.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bartley. Moving on to other condolences, Deputy Mayor.
I have two actually.
And then I'll move on to Councillor Martin.
Okay. I want to start my condolence for local icon Graham Gard. Graham was a Warwick veterinarian for a very long term actually, for a lot of years. He recently passed away, leaving behind a legacy of unwavering community service. Graham was well known and highly respected throughout the community for his loyal service to the region. He was someone who was dependable. He was totally committed to all that he undertook. He was someone who could be trusted and someone you could always count on. While he was devoted to his loving family, he also had a passion for cricket and horse racing, and he spent decades supporting both sports while fulfilling his role as a veterinarian, a husband and a father. In the 1970s, 80s and 90s, Graham was very involved in the Warwick Turf Club. He actually was the driving force behind turning it around when it was in a difficult financial situation at the time, so he's long remembered for that. He served as president from 1985 to 1994 and was later honoured with life membership for his valued and loyal service. Along with his professional life and horse racing, Graham was also passionate about cricket. From 1978 until the 2000s, he was heavily involved with organising local matches within the community, always giving 100%. He was willing to put his hand up to take on roles, including president, to ensure longevity of his club and the sport in general. His dedication and commitment to community saw him take on the role of president for his children's kindergarten, the local rugby union club and the Warwick Men's Club. While serving the community, Graham was highly regarded as a veterinarian. He will be fondly remembered by his clients for his unwavering and genuine love for the animals he treated. He passed away on May the 11th at the age of 82 after a couple of years of pretty hard illness. He will be lovingly remembered by the Warwick community and his family and friends. And my second condolence is for another icon, local icon, Ian Campbell Wilson, who Lizzie will know quite well. Ian was born in November on 3rd of April 1934 and passed away on the 2nd of May 2026, aged 92 years. Ian's work life commenced at the ES&A Bank in Mosman, Sydney, and continued in the financial world, including credit manager with Custom Credit, Ampol, Myer, Town Transport in Rabaul, and small businesses in Gympie and Warwick. He thoroughly enjoyed his final position though, which was that of barman at the Warwick Club. He retired at 88 years of age and became an honorary member of the Warwick Club. Ian married his loving wife Penny in 1961. They had 2 children, Amanda and Philip, and 2 grandchildren, Isabel and Max. The Campbell Wilsons' commitment to their respective communities commenced with kindergarten, through to PNCs, Cubs, Scouts, swimming clubs, fire boards, Masonic Lodge, museums, Apex, Rotary, the Anglican Church, QCWA, Warwick Art Gallery, Warwick Hospital Consultative Committee and Warwick Red Cross. Ian was also president of the Rotary Club of Warwick, Warden of St Mark's Anglican Church, president of Legacy Warwick. Penny and Ian's combined great interest and continuing commitment was to the LNP. For over 50 years, Ian and Penny held the volunteer positions of branch presidents, secretary and treasurer of electorate councils, division councils, policy advisors, campaign managers and statewide president of the National Party. Ian enjoyed national service at Rathmines, New South Wales. On Anzac Day and Remembrance Day, he proudly wore the anniversary of national service, the 1951 to 1972 medal and the Australian Defence Medal, and of course he proudly wore his father's medals as well. Ian was the consummate conservationist. He had a constant sense of humour. His great enjoyment used to be transversing along Palmerin Street, just checking, was what he used to say, to see what was happening. He enjoyed coming up with nicknames for relatives and friends. Quite often, sometimes he got so used to using their nickname, he couldn't remember what their actual name was. He enjoyed woodworking, doing up furniture, collection and care of antiques, cars, trains, rugby, current affairs, politics. He was a proud, loyal Queenslander and Australian, and many enjoyed seeing the Australian flag fly at their home at 12B Lock Street. Ian has been remembered by many as one of nature's gentlemen, with a fiercely loyal allegiance to all that was dear to him. He cherished his family. His thoughts, his abiding love and affection were always with them wherever they were in his world. He was their guiding light, their champion, their trusted friend and confidant. It has been said that Ian was one of a million, that he will never be forgotten. Memories will be cherished and his constant sense of humour will be much missed. He was a fine friend to many. In his final years, Ian was kindly cared for by the Darling Downs Health Services, Warwick Community Care, the Warwick Hospital and Kurramac. However, there was a requirement for Ian to be closer to family, and the decision was made for him to move to Rockpool at Castledine. Penny remained in Warwick, regularly travelling to Rockpool to be with Ian. Some months later, she was able to move to be with Ian at Rockpool, and they spent their final time together. Ian's ashes are to be interred at St Mark's Anglican Church, Columbarium, which will be returning him home sometime in the near future. I just want to say, before we move on, I'm not sure who Russell's going to be talking about, but we've just spoken about 3 leaders in the community, and recently we also spoke about the late Doug Cudmore, and what you were talking about, Lizzie, before just conveys what these gentlemen were. They were leaders, but they were also worked with a team. They weren't isolated and didn't want recognition for themselves. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor, Councillor Watney.
Thanks, Matt. I would like to acknowledge the recent passing of Stanthorpe man Johnny Graham. He was a champion badminton player, farmer and avid bowler. Many in the region would know Johnny through his later life when he was involved in the real estate industry. He is survived by his 2 children and 5 grandchildren and will be missed by all who knew him.
Anyone else, councillors? Moving on to attendance and apologies. We have all in attendance and no apologies. The reading and confirmation of minutes. We have a recommendation that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on Wednesday, 22 April 2026 be adopted. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor McDonald, thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Dean, thank you. All in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. Next item, we have a recommendation that council received the report. Do we have a mover for that? You weren't here, yes. Councillor Hassett, thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Dean. Any questions on that, councillors? All in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Declarations of conflicts of interest. Do we have any declarations today? Councillor Watling?
12.2.
Any others, councillors? Okay, Councillor Watling?
I declare a prescribed conflict of interest in relation to this matter as it relates to funding associated with the Apple and Grape Harvest Festival, in which I'm president. In the interest of transparency, I will leave the room while the matter is being discussed.
Thank you, Councillor Watling. Moving on to item 8, notices of motion. We have a notice of motion from Councillor Watling that council waive and refund in full the temporary event permit fee charged to the Maryvale Progress Association for the upcoming Winter Solstice 2026 event, and we're moving that, Councillor Watling. And is there a seconder? Councillor Richters, thank you. Over to you, Councillor Watling.
Firstly, I just don't want to take away from the work that the staff do in preparing these permits. I was approached by the Maryvale Progress Association. They've already received a 50% non-for-profit discount. They won't be entitled for the the grant process because their event falls before this, and they've asked if I put this before council to see if they can get a refund.
Thank you, Councillor Watling. Speaking for the motion, do we have anyone speaking against the motion today? Councillor Haslett.
Can I just begin by acknowledging the outstanding work of the Maryvale Progress Association. This winter solstice event, I'm sure, will bring people together, strengthen community spirit and reflect the kind of volunteer contribution that enriches our communities. And community groups like this certainly deserve Council's appreciation and Council's support. However, supporting community groups does not mean abandoning our responsible governance. And what concerns me is the inconsistency where on the one hand, we all want to see rates stay as low as we possibly can. So then asking to waive fees and charges raises the question of where does the money come from? Ultimately, every waived fee must be paid for by somebody, and that means our general ratepayers have to cover that cost. We'd all love to reduce costs for community organisations wherever possible, I am sure, but our responsibility is not simply to make popular decisions, it's to make balanced and sustainable ones, and responsible management is one of this council's stated priorities, and responsible management requires consistency. We've recently updated our community grants policy to make it fairer and more accessible for all groups. These reforms provide a consistent and equitable pathway for support into the future. The Maryvale Progress Association has missed the boat for this year that has just passed, but I guess for any community organisation maybe listening to what's going on here, I guess it's an indication to be prepared and be aware of what's going on with those community grants and get in a timely manner for those. If we waive this fee today, what do we say to the next organisation and then the one after that who expect the same treatment? What's the purpose of having policies if we then choose to simply ignore them? And for those reasons, I will not be supporting the notice of motion today.
Councillor Haslett, are you speaking for Councillor Haslett?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. I think it's commendable of the Maryvale group to bring this to council. It's sad that we have to move a notice of motion to get funding for it, but sometimes it's essential to do so to fit within the timeframes. I guess if they were to fundraise the $1 a raffle ticket, it'd be a prolonged effort to try and raise the funds just for a permit. Our budget implication is our staff's time to assess the permit. That's our financial exposure. I believe if the community can't afford it and they're struggling, I think sometimes we have to be a little bit considerate as a council to give them a hand up, not a hand out. In my opinion, it is actually a hand up. So I would be supporting the motion in the fact that I think it's an initiative for them. If the event comes off, I'm sure they'll be prudent in putting in future grant applications to meet the required timeframes.
Councillor Bartley, do I have another councillor speaking against the motion? Councillor Wendell?
Thanks, Mayor Melissa. Look, I've always been very, very supportive of all our progress associations and other organisations throughout the community, and I understand how difficult it is for them to meet finances. But I also, in my time on council, which is 10 years now, and I've been closely associated with many of these organisations, I have always encouraged them and let them know that council cannot support everything or pay for everything. So they also need to look at other avenues to fundraise and find other grant opportunities to get funding. And that's why I can't support this motion, because whilst I realise the situation, I understand exactly what Councillor Haslett has already pointed out, that if we say yes to this, what are we going to do in the future when everybody else starts coming forward and they all want a refund? We can't carry that. They have to look outside council for their funding. So I can't support the motion.
Councillor Wendell, do I have another councillor speaking in favour of the motion?
I'll just add to the conversation by saying that I understand their event. I've been to the last 2 or maybe 3, and it's a great event. It's really small. The Maryvale community comes out, but there's not very many of them, and they would really need this to be able to make this successful this year and for future years. And I understand the philosophy around, where do we draw the line, but I think groups like Maryvale and other little tiny communities that struggle, that try to do the best that they can, just need a bit more council support, and that's why I'm supporting it.
Does any other councillors speaking against? I'll speak against. I actually will just echo what Councillor Hustler and Councillor Windle have said. I am very supportive of our progress associations, our community groups, and events in the region, but I'm voting against because I really just don't have the information that I think I would need to be able to vote in favour of this motion, and that information is around how many groups would fit into this category if this is what we were to apply for all community groups in the region, and what would that mean in a financial sense. So I think I appreciate the timing of this and why it's come up to us, but I just don't feel that I can support it without knowing the impacts that I would then have on how many other community groups would come forward and either ask for a refund of fees that they paid, or also ask for an additional refund. And I do think, we do acknowledge the important part people play by giving them that 50% discount, but I agree with Councillor Windle that there needs to be multiple sources of funding for many of our groups, and I'd like to help them to access some of that. Any other councillors speaking for? No, happy to go to a vote on that. Those in favour? We've got Councillors McDonald, Wantling, Bartley and Richters, and those against, Councillors Kitchen, Haslett, Green, Windle and Hamilton. Councillors, I think the vote showed that was a difficult one.
Sorry.
I think it showed it was a difficult one to support those groups. Moving on to item 9, we have a recommendation that the report of the Chief Executive Officer in relation to correspondence be received. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Haslett, thank you, and seconded Councillor Kitchen. Are there any questions on that, councillors?
Not so much a question, but just like to encourage everybody to take the time and go over to the Warwick Art Gallery and have a look at Cloud B3. It's very interesting to see, and it's something unique, and we're very, very lucky to have it in our region, especially for the period of 2 years. It's an honour actually, so I encourage you all to go and check it out.
Councillor Windle, Councillor Haslett.
I was going to speak on that particular correspondence item too, so thank you, Deputy Mayor, for jumping in before me. But yeah, I absolutely echo what you've just said. It, for those who are unaware, it's a sculpture from the National Gallery. It's a sculpture of national significance, and it'll be with us for several years, so that's really wonderful. People might ask why that is important, and I would just say to that, experiences like this give people something to talk about and something to think about. They give people a reason to come together as a community, and arts and culture generally help people to see things differently. They spark curiosity and they encourage creativity, critical thinking and conversation. And at a time when many people are feeling really disconnected or disillusioned with the world, the community, all sorts of things, I think it's really, really important that we have these opportunities to bring us together for joy and for something positive. And yeah, if you go and have a look at it and maybe start a conversation based on it, it could lead anywhere. Who knows? It's a wonderful thing to do.
Councillors, I would just like to highlight the status of our planning scheme, our new draft planning scheme, which we are still pressing the Queensland Government to return to us, to finish their review and return to us. I am asked every single week by developers and builders in the region when the new planning scheme will be in, and it is probably will have the biggest impact of anything that can be done on housing affordability and availability in our region. It's a critical document for this region, and this council will continue to liaise with the Office of the Deputy Premier to try and progress that as much as can be done. Going to a vote on that, all in favour? Oh, sorry, Councillor McDonald.
Yeah, Mayor, I'd like to speak to item number 2 and item number 6. Item number 2 concerns me greatly. Water security modelling and the Allarabor field pipeline. That issue has not yet been addressed. We are a first world country. Maslow's hierarchy tells us we need food, clothing and shelter. It's fairly basic. Water comes into that as well. I respectfully ask, in fact I beg the Minister, to actually look at our situation here in the Southern Downs and understand that we are sitting on the brink of a drought. We have seen a township of 5,000 people go completely dry. I note that Toowoomba City Council has a pipeline going, so I've been advised, down to Greenmount. They also have a new hospital, that's great for them. I'm glad to hear that they're receiving that. And there's also an equestrian centre going in there. So they're receiving a lot of government funding. Some things in life are necessities. Other things are nice to have. Right about now, and where we stand as a community for our constituents, I implore the Minister to have a look at our water situation and take whatever measures are necessary for us to have water security in this region. I know the Mayor has been diligently advocating for this, and there are a lot of communications in play at the moment. However, given the situation that we are currently facing, I would certainly ask the Minister takes this into consideration and looks at water security for our region. We are a first world nation, and I expect that my constituents have clean drinking water under all circumstances. Number 6. Once again, to the Minister respectfully, I don't like the goalposts being changed, and on a regular basis this appears to be the way it is. When you look at that final paragraph there, they're looking at shifting the drought period from 1 in 45 rather than 1 in 10. This concerns me greatly. We have to think about essentials like water from an agricultural perspective as well. I know that the Minister is looking into it in regards to whether we actually should go ahead with the development at Keogh's Road with 396 and the licence. I know that that is being re-looked at. I would ask that she considers our farmers and our agriculture industry that is so very, very important to us here in the Southern Downs. That licence, during a time of drought, would be absolutely critical to our community. So once again, I ask the Minister to please consider very carefully the outcomes, even though it is quite clear that they have received the right to extract water. My concern is what that may do to our alluvium if this does go ahead. Thank you, Mayor.
Want to do something about the heater?
Yes. Okay, we're going to a vote on that, councillors. All in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. Moving on to, we have nothing for item 10. Moving on to portfolio reports. We have a recommendation that my Prosperous Communities portfolio report be received, which I will move. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Pigeon, thank you. Councillors, I'll take that report as read, but I would like to ask Councillor Pigeon and Councillor Windle to perhaps speak to some of their items in this report this month.
Thank you. In regards to Minister Bowen and Sally Higgins' community engagement event, I just would like to speak to that. During the gathering, I had the opportunity to speak to Mr Bowen about the importance of EV chargers and infrastructure across the region to support tourism and growth, and to make it clear that we need this in regional communities so we're not left behind in the transition to low emission transport. I also discussed the biofuel sector and the importance of the greater support of circular waste initiatives. I highlighted that increasing financial pressure in these areas are placing on regional councils and the need for ongoing funding and support to help councils manage this as we become more sustainable in the future. I really enjoyed spending the time with Minister Bowen and Sally, and I wish Sally all the best with her future opportunities and looking forward to advocating for our regional priorities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pigeon and Councillor Windle.
Thank you. Yeah, so as some of you are aware, I did take some leave just recently and had the opportunity to travel the Outback while supporting the Queensland Outback Music Trail, which started in Charleville and ended in Mount Isa. It was a great experience, and it gave me an opportunity to see how some of our other shires and regional councils operate. And at each event that was held there, each event was opened by the local mayor, and I had the opportunity just to go up afterwards and just meet them, introduce myself and tell them that I was there, and we had some long chats. Coincidentally, the Charleville one coincided with the Anzac Day service, which gave my husband and I a great opportunity to attend the dawn service there, as well as the march and the morning service. In all my time attending Anzac Day services, I have never attended a service which was more moving than that one was. And they had, their guest speaker was a local ex-Vietnam vet, now in his 80s. At the end of his speech, which was just so heartfelt and human and real, he had a standing ovation by all in attendance, and there were a lot of people in attendance. Probably, I would think that park had as many people in attendance as we would have in Leslie Park for a small community. So it was excellent. So that part was great to start off our trip, and I am going to take some of the ideas that they use for their service to the RSL here and make some suggestions that maybe they could incorporate as well. So yeah, so I got that much out of it, but it was great to speak to the other mayors, deputy mayors and other councillors as well along the way, and hope to catch up with them at a conference in the near future.
Ma'am, anyone else on that one? Councillor Watling, yes.
Just a point of clarification there, on 23rd of April, budget engagement community pop-up. I think there's an oversight there that I was actually a bit late, but I was at that one community pop-up.
Yes. So you did arrive, Councillor Watling, and I wasn't sure if it was for the pop-up or at the end there, but yes, you're right. If that's all councillors, those in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Moving on to item 12.1, we have a recommendation that council note the Chief Executive Officer's status report. Do I have a move for that? Councillor Watling, thank you, and seconded by Councillor Windle. Are there any questions on that, councillors? No. All in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Item 12.2, Councillor Watling, you were leaving for this one?
Yep.
Yes. Okay, we have a recommendation that council reallocate the $40,000 excluding GST unspent event sponsorship funds to Granite Belt Wine Tourism Association $10,000, Stanthorpe and Granite Belt Chamber of Commerce $10,000, Warwick Chamber of Commerce $10,000, and minor events as assessed against the grants policy and associated event sponsorship guidelines $10,000. Councillor Richter, are you happy to move that as the event portfolio holder? Thank you, and seconded Councillor McDonald, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Look, I do have a little bit of a different opinion about where the money could have gone, but that's fine. I'm also happy with the list that's being proposed. And I think that in particular, the granting of some additional money in the small grants program, I think will be very beneficial, and I really hope specifically communities in Stanthorpe who are looking to do something that could benefit from this opportunity, really take up the opportunity of applying and yeah, that's all I really want to say.
Thank you. Yes, a question, Councillor McDonald?
Mayor, do you think that we obviously had a councillor who's not here at the moment, Councillor Wantling, put forward that that we would waiver a fee for the Maryvale Progress Association. Would it be possible to add them to this list? And potentially, therefore, redistribute funding to ensure that they receive that? It doesn't seem like a great deal of money. It's $305 by comparison to others that are getting $10,000. Can we make an amendment? Is that possible? Thank you.
Yeah,
I think it's reasonable.
Yeah, I think I've taken on board Councillor McDonald. My understanding is that the minor events isn't set in stone, and it's that is actually, the resolution as it stands would allow that.
Right.
With assessment under minor events, would that be correct? Yeah, so we could let the staff, because I think it's got 10,000 in there, so we could.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor.
A question through you, Chair. Just we have several streams of grants in the current financial year. I know the community grants are fully expended aside from this money. Are the others, like the RADF, are the other grant streams also fully expended at this point?
I'd ask the Director to.
Through the chair, thanks, Councillor. So the events that we have budgeted for this year, the major events, are fully expended. So those have been committed to. There is some additional funding available in one of the event areas, because what we thought we would give them is not the case this year. So there's a bit of money left over there. So in addition to this on the table right now, is a little bit of money left over in one of the major events that we did not commit as much as we could.
And RADF?
RADF.
Regional, sorry.
So the benefit funding, there is a little bit more to go this financial year. My understanding is from the campaign that we did recently, there's been a bit of an uptake, and we have seen progressively about 5 or 6 applications coming for RADF. I would suggest that we're probably sitting at around about maybe 40,000 left in the RADF budget.
Thank you. That's great, and just for community groups who are still looking for funding, that's sort of in addition to what we're talking about here. So I thought that's probably important to know. Thank you.
Okay, so Councillor Richter's speaking for the motion. Does anyone want to speak against the motion? Councillor Bartley?
Thanks, Mayor. I guess I don't talk about this as being grant money, I talk about it being ratepayer money, because that's what we're dealing with here. It came out of our last budget as a budget allocation for the apple and grape, and I give them all credit where credit's due for saving this amount of money and not using it. If it, we wouldn't even be here discussing it, should they have used it to run their event. But as I say, they acted with austerity, and they preserved those funds and returned, and they remained in council. My main concern is if you read the risk in the report, the risk and opportunity, you know, there's challenges in measuring outcomes consistently across different initiative types. There's a whole raft of reasons there how we'll probably have difficulty understanding how these funds were eventually acquitted appropriately. And I'd say that is already highlighted in the risks. We're going to be facing a budget in a month's time, and I was of the opinion these should be returned to internal revenue, so that maybe when all the grants considering what money we're putting towards community grants, this could have been added in and done through the right process of understanding what people really want to achieve with them. At the moment, I think it's a little bit wishy-washy in the fact that we hope that they'll do the right thing. They have outlined to some way how they'll use it, but as I say, we'll never measure that. The one thing that also concerns me is I read the Stanthorpe Chamber of Commerce meeting minutes, and it said, and I don't know whether this is related or not, it said results from extra funding from SDRC should be known by Friday the 10th of April. Well, maybe they've got a crystal ball or they're talking about different funding, I don't know, but I was a bit amused to read that. So maybe people are backing on getting this funding, and one thing I really worry about highlighting the risk is potential perception of inequity in allocation, particularly given the origin of the funds, and perception that basically this will be expected in future budgets, that they will be given this money. Once you start hand feeding it is an idea that they should be entitled to it annually, I'm afraid, and that does happen.
Councillor Bartley, Councillor McDonald.
I have a question, Mayor, through you to the CEO. Given Councillor Bartley's concerns that he's raised in regards to acquittal procedures, I'm sure as a council, our operational staff do their due diligence in regards to acquitting such grants. Could you possibly outline how that occurs?
Yeah, that is
Thank you.
correct. Yeah, certainly, Councillor. That is correct. Our staff acquit all of the funding that is given out through the various different streams that council offers that to various different events or community groups, and that happens on a biannual basis.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like? I do have a question.
I have a question, Mayor. Under number 2, there's 3 events listed there, and I understand that they have active applications open now. Is it intended that those events are funded, if their grants are approved, funded out of this bucket of money, or is that still using the other unspent money?
Through the chair, so the intention is that those events listed under number 2 will be coming from this bucket of money on the table at the moment. We continue to receive additional event applications for this 6-month period between July and December this year, which is that transition period before we hit the new rights policy starting in January next year. So this money will be used for any sort of minor events coming up, in addition to the money that was referred to previously around any sort of that money that's available from one of the major events that we did not give as much money to as we thought we would.
Okay, another councillor speaking for the motion, Councillor Pigeon.
Thank you. I support the reallocation of the unused 40,000 in sponsorship funding into initiatives that will continue to benefit the wider region and community. While it's unfortunate the funding originally allocated to the 2026 Apple and Grape Festival was not able to proceed as intended, I think it is important that these funds are still invested back into projects and organisations that support tourism, local business, community participation and local growth. I believe the proposed split across Granite Belt wine tourism, Stanthorpe Granite Belt Chamber, Warwick Chamber and smaller local events provides a fair and balanced approach that spreads benefit across multiple sectors of communities. Importantly, this funding can be delivered within the current budget without requiring any additional allocation from council, while still creating positive economic and social outcomes for the region. I do acknowledge that there may be differing views around how funding is distributed, so I think transparency and accountability around the outcomes will be important moving forward. Overall, I see this as a practical opportunity to reinvest back into our communities and continue supporting local and regional development.
Anyone else speaking against the motion? No. Any other councillors want to speak for the motion?
I just want to add, all the comments have been great and I appreciate everybody's words, but I think that there's been a community expectation as well, since this has all unfolded, that those funds would be reallocated to organisations throughout the community. So I think this is a great outcome, and that shows that we are listening to the community. We've heard what they said, they want to see this reinvested, and that's what's happening.
Any other councillors? Councillor Dean?
Thank you, Chair. So yeah, I just want to reiterate what everyone else has said about the positive way forward with this reallocation. I think that all three organisations here are fantastic for our community, and I think that the funding will go to a good cause, and they'll be able to pursue tourism opportunities, and they will be able to support our local businesses even more so. So I think that's definitely a positive way forward, and also an extra $10,000 towards minor events. I don't see how that's a negative at all. I think, like we have, Councillor McDonald has suggested to support the Maryvale solstice event later on, coming up very soon. So I think that this is a fantastic reallocation of funds.
Councillor Dean? Any other councillors? I'll just speak for the motion. I think actually there's never been a better time to reallocate these funds, with Stanthorpe being named top tourism town. That is an opportunity that I think Granite Belt Wine and Tourism will really be able to capitalise on thanks to this additional funding. And I think particularly for both the Chambers of Commerce and Granite Belt Wine Tourism, we all know from last time that when we have dry conditions, it can be important to be pushing events out through the chambers to assist local businesses, but also to push out more messaging to let people know that we are open for business. We are expecting our biggest tourism season over the winter months, and we are ready to have visitors arrive, and I think this money is very timely given where we are, to be able to ensure that we keep those tourism dollars rolling into the Southern Downs. Did you want any right for?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Look, I understand what Councillor Bartley has said in his contribution, and I guess this might be a point of difference between us, but I think that if this was a discussion around budget, sure, but this is not a discussion around budget. This money has already been approved by us nearly 12 months ago, and there was an expectation and a commitment we gave to the community at that budget time that we would spend this allocated amount of money for the purposes of sponsorship and grants in our community. For me, it was really important that where Stanthorpe, Apple and Grape didn't take up their $40,000, that I would have hoped that all of that would have gone to the Stanthorpe region, because it's really an investment in their region, as we do or have done previously, and I understand next year that will change. So for me, it's really important, or really good actually, that of the three organisations that will receive the largest proportions of this, two of them are from Stanthorpe, and of the three events which have been proposed as the smaller events, two of those are from Stanthorpe. So I'm happy with that, and I really hope that they can manage to get their money in 4 weeks' time.
Going to a vote on that, all in favour? We have councillors McDonald, Pidgeon, Haslett, Richter, Steen, Windle and Hamilton, and those against, councillor Bartley.
I'll call a division on that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, councillor Bartley. If someone could ask councillor Watling to rejoin us.
Something that was.
We're moving on to item 12.3. We have a recommendation that council adopt the amendments to council. We have a recommendation that council adopt the amendments to councillor portfolios included as Appendix A to the councillor portfolio policy as presented. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Windle, and a seconder, councillor Pidgeon. I think, councillor Watling, did you want to have an amendment to that wording?
Yeah, I just didn't write down the amendment. What I sent.
That's okay. I think,
Sorry.
No, I think,
It was just the facilities, wasn't it?
yes, so, I think Councillor Wantling, has an amendment motion, to add, yes, your words were,
I was just going to it. Yeah, just probably to add that associated facilities to the, to mine with, sports groups and associated facilities.
to add associated facilities to sporting groups.
Yeah. Sports groups and associated facilities.
Okay, and you're moving that amendment motion, Councillor Wantling, and the seconder, Councillor Haslett, thank you. Okay, so that's just a minor change to Councillor Wantling's portfolio to say sporting groups and associated facilities.
Point of order, Mayor. You've got a speaker that
Yeah.
appears to be on and is making noises in the chamber.
Oh, it's the
It's
room
next
next
door.
door.
Is it?
Yeah,
Sure.
they're doing a workshop next door.
Okay, so Councillor Wantling has just moved that minor amendment, and we've got a seconder for Councillor Haslett. Councillor Winters.
Question, Mayor, what's the purpose of the change? Like what's missing?
Just thought, sporting groups and associated facilities, like the facilities that are sporting, what we've done with, suburbs and collegians with the two facilities, merging them together, just, yeah, any of those sort of buildings.
Right.
At the moment, it's just the oval, it's not the complete, overall texture of them.
I would have thought that would have been covered under leasing to community organisations, but anyway.
But yeah, so that was the question, Councillor Haslett.
I'm happy to second it I think it's just a clarification, but in the interest of clarification and in exactly the same vein as what Councillor Wantling has said, under Councillor Pigeon's then arts and culture, should that not also have and associated facilities? Because it's the same thing in a different sector.
Yeah, it just doesn't.
It just clarifies the portfolio.
Maybe we should have a footnote at the bottom that says and includes associated facilities.
Councillors, are we happy to go to a vote on that amendment motion, or would anyone like to actually debate that? No. Okay, those in favour of the amendment? That's unanimous, thank you. Okay, so coming back to the motion itself, do you want to lead?
Thanks, Mayor Melissa. Look, I know I was away for the some of the information and session and conversation, but I have had other conversations with the Mayor around this, and look, I think it's a good idea to have some change partway through our term on council, so that we don't become complacent, really, and we start looking at other things that we can work towards and get out there and meet maybe even a few more people that you might not necessarily meet if you're stuck in the same portfolio all the way through. So I fully support the change. There's not a lot of major change there. That I see it as minor changes, but they are additional to what some of us were doing before. So I think it's a good idea, and I fully support the idea, and hope that everybody can continue to work together and help each other as well, and support each other with their portfolios.
Councillor Wendell, do we have anyone speaking against the motion? Does anyone else want to speak for the motion?
Yeah, I'd just concur with the Deputy Mayor's comments, and I think it's a good even spread of skills and talents of our elected people, which will serve our region well for the next 22 months.
Councillor Bartley, any other councillors to speak? Councillor Richters?
Yeah, thanks. I am thankful for a number of things. I like the fact that I was able to change my portfolio name to Thriving to match the new or potentially new corporate plan. I love the fact that we are linking portfolios to the corporate plan and so that people effectively are given pillars of our new document to work within. So I'm thankful for other things. Whilst I would have liked planning and development, economic development is the closest thing to that, and I'm thankful that the Mayor has given that up, even though it was something that she was passionate about having at the start of the term. I think that there's some bold changes in here. Councillor Pitchin takes on art galleries and the art space, which is not her native stomping ground, so I'm sure that will be an interesting exercise. And she hands the baton over to Councillor McDonald to do the pest management committee, which could be a good or bad thing.
Thanks, Councillor.
Councillor Hazlitt takes on roads, where she was dumped a few months ago, and I think she'll find it interesting to be in a more engineering space than in a arty space where she's maybe used to. So I think there's some interesting changes in this, and I look forward to being able to do our best, or my best, and I'm sure everyone else's best in delivering their portfolios.
Councillor Richter, Councillor Hustler.
Thanks, I think I better speak to the dumped places.
Dumped.
No, I agree with what you're saying, Councillor Richter, and also the Deputy Mayor said it. During this term of council so far, we have seen significant change within this organisation. There's been restructures and reassessments of priorities, and currently, as people would know, we're developing a new corporate plan that will help guide the future direction of the Southern Downs. And I think as councillors, it's our responsibility to evolve in line with those changes that are happening within the organisation, and this is a part of that. It aligns really nicely with that potential corporate plan that's going to be coming up soon. As Councillor Richter's just pointed out, this reshuffle asked me to relinquish a much-loved inspired communities, and I have absolutely loved being the spokesperson for that portfolio for the last couple of years. However, saying that, it doesn't mean I'm going to be doing any less in the space of youth education and the arts and culture. It simply means that the spokesperson really shifts. And Carly can come to lots more events with me, I think. I think that could be a fun space to be in. As for the connected communities, which as you can see there is focused on roads, footpaths and cycleways, I'm really looking forward to the challenge of this. We know that roads in particular are one of our biggest challenges in this region. We have a lot of kilometres of road. We have some major highways that run through our region, which are not owned by us. Yes, we need to advocate for the improvement of those highways. I think that the New England Highway is a really good example of what people across Australia consider to be one of our major freight routes. But when you look at the federal and state funding that has gone into that highway compared to the Newell, the Pacific, the Bruce, it's basically been piecemeal and maintenance funding that it's got, while the others have had significant strategic investment in them. And we need to be advocating for that. We need to have a councillor in the room where the advocacy happens for that freight route. And I think that has been something that we haven't done as well as we could. And that is going to be what I will put a lot of my energy into, is the advocacy work to help us secure the strategic routes that we need through our region to put us back on the map, pardon the pun. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hustler. Would any other councillors like to speak? Councillor Pitchin?
I'm looking forward to these changes. I believe these changes will strengthen collaboration across the council and provide clearer links between councillor responsibilities, community engagement and strategic outcomes for the region. Personally, I'm very much looking forward to the Inspired Communities portfolio. I see this as an exciting opportunity to work closely with our communities, local organisation and stakeholders to help strengthen the work that has already started from Councillor Haslett and the team, so thank you. I'm passionate about supporting initiatives that encourage stronger, more resilient and more connected communities, and I look forward to working with the staff in these roles. I am handing over to a trusted councillor in Councillor McDonald. She's passionate and I know that she'll do a really good job in that space. So
Thanks, Carl.
good job.
Thank you, Councillor Pigeon. Anyone else? Councillor McDonald?
Yes, Mayor. In relation to the portfolios, I think this demonstrates an excellent level of flexibility from staff and councillors themselves. You never know in life what's going to be thrown at you. Since I've been sitting in one of these chairs, we've had COVID-19, and now we've had obviously the Middle East crisis, which is taking a heavy impact in regards to fuel, and will have an impact, a flow-on impact onto our assets, etc., and the way in which we plan in the future. So I say congratulations to everyone for taking on their new roles, and I'm dead sure that we will do our mighty best at representing each of these portfolios, regardless of the circumstances and the pressures that we're put under. Thanks, Mayor.
I just wanted to keep it short and sweet and echo what the other councillors have mentioned about this new portfolio shuffle, and I think that it's great that it really aligns with our corporate plan, and I want to thank all the staff, councillors and they're involved for bringing this together.
Councillor Dean? Anyone else? I'll speak and then I'll throw to you for a reply, Deputy Mayor. I would like to thank all the councillors for what they've done so far in their portfolios, and I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of your work in your new portfolios. I think Councillor Haslett touched on it. These really are just the lead councillor in a portfolio, and of course all of us can be involved across the board in initiatives, and I would certainly encourage participation from all councillors across portfolios. I think the community expects us to be across more than one thing. I would like to say to Councillor Richters that Councillor Pigeon is in fact a very gifted photographer, so I'm sure she's going to love her arts and culture. And if there's anyone who is as passionate about pest management as Councillor Pigeon, it is Councillor McDonald. So I think that is a very good handover there. I'd also like to thank Councillor Richters for taking on economic development and freeing me up from my main focus, of course, at the moment, which is water security, and which will be water security over the coming year. Back to you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm pleased to hear all the comments from all the councillors, and it's nice to know that we've still got that unity there where councillors are prepared to work together, even though they might have handed over part of their portfolio to somebody else. They're still prepared to work together and support each other with that. So I think that's a great thing. It's good to hear. I just want to say for Councillor Richters, with my recent leave that I had, tourism was a big focus on all that I did in my time, and tourism was affected in a big way because of the fuel, and a lot of people cancelled their travel because they were concerned about fuel shortages. There was no fuel shortages. We travelled 5,000 kilometres. There was no fuel shortage anywhere, and every rural person we spoke to said the same thing. They were pleased to see people come. So I know that you'll advocate for that as well, to get people to support our tourism events, and that's what we need. There's been hundreds of cancellations throughout the outback, which has affected a lot of caravan parks, businesses and the wider community. So we don't want to see that happen here, and I know that you'll be a great advocate to keep on supporting our tourism and major events.
Going to a vote, all in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. Moving on to item 13.1. We have a recommendation that Council receive and note the financial performance report as at 30 April 2026. Councillor Wantling, as the Portfolio Council for Responsible Management, would you like to move that one?
I would like to.
Thank you. And do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Bartley, thank you. Okay, over to you, Councillor Wantling.
What was that? Which one was that? Sorry.
Do you want to speak to the motion, or do you have any
it's fine,
questions? Yeah, okay. Does anyone, any questions on that from councillors? Councillor Richters?
Just wondering if I could be enlightened into what the $500,000 in plant hire charges were. The additional plant hire charges that were above what we expected for $500,000.
Sorry?
Might need to ask you.
Yeah, can we ask the CFO?
councillors. I think, I don't want to misinform you, but I'll take the question on notice and confirm. But I think it has to probably do with increasing INPC works. And so that's why it's offset partly by revenue as well. So yes, the expenditure is not going to be low, but it's partly offset by revenue. But I can definitely confirm that.
Councillor
I'd like to make comment through Mayor that given the seasonal conditions, it has assisted us in gaining extra funds from fees and charges, basically in relation to the sale yards. We've seen some huge amounts of cattle going through those yards, and as a result of our dry spell we're suffering just in this isolated part of the world. And the reason the market's so strong is because 200 k's away, having bumper season, they can't get enough cattle to feed their paddocks. So that's what's driving this, but it's seasonal and we can't depend on that regularly.
I would just like to make comment that it is pleasing to see the council continue to maintain a strong financial position with revenue performing above budget and debt continuing to reduce. While there has been some increased cost due to emergency works and staffing pressures, council's overall financial management remains sound. It is also encouraging to see progress across capital works programs and continued investment back into our communities and infrastructure. Overall, these results reflect responsible governance and a strong focus on long-term sustainability for our region. Thank you.
As I have done many times before, the capital expenditure for the last 5 months was above our target, which was 10, fantastic, which meant or at least appeared as though we're on track. So I just wanted to maybe clarify, given that we only have 4 weeks left of the financial year, are we on track to expend 100% of our capital?
100 will be coming closer to around 80, and that's largely constrained by pressures within contractors. Trying to tackle contractors.
Thanks. 80% is a lot better than 50%, so I'll take that.
Can I ask one? Sorry, the heaters are just killing me today.
Oh, us too.
Yeah, no, I think they're starting to get good now. Yeah, nice. Can I just ask 3 minutes? So I just noticed the sewer program appears to be tracking relatively slowly in terms of actual expenditure. Is that because of many of these projects incur the majority of the cost towards the end of the project? Is that the reason why?
Councillor Watling, which program was that?
Sewer. The sewer program.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Any other councillors? I'd just like to also talk about that capital works and project. I think sitting at 80% at the moment and tracking to 80% is actually a really good result. So most councils aim to be at around the 80% mark. That's fairly standard, and I think the fact that we're looking to achieve that this year is a really big improvement. And I'd like to thank the staff for their continued focus on the capital works program. Are we happy to go to a vote on that?
I just want to point out, because I get a bit excited about this one with the borrowings report, because when I was elected in 2016, I think it was 38 million. If you look at it now, it's 888. I mean, that's an enormous reduction, and I can't give enough credit to the staff for handling that so well in all that time, because that's a huge reduction and has put us in a lot better place. Thank you.
Are we happy to go to a vote on that? All in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Okay, moving on to item 13.2. We have a recommendation that Council, pursuant to section 99(1) of the Land Act 1994, advise the Department of Resources that Council does not support the request to cancel temporary road closure and reopen this section of the currently closed road reserve, described as being part of Murphy's Crossing Road, and that runs through or adjacent to lot 14 on BNT 36, lot 91 on BNT 538, lot 10 on BNT 313, and state land lot 92 on BNT 538. Councillor Hustler, as the fellow councillor, are you happy to move that one?
First job, hey? Yes, I am happy to.
Okay. Are you seconding Councillor Bartley? Thank you. Okay, over to you, Councillor Hustler.
Thank you. Several months ago, when Council considered matters relating to the connected parcels of land associated with Murphy's Crossing Road, I expressed concern that some decisions were being influenced by incomplete and one-sided information. Having now had considerably more time to review the facts and hear differing perspectives and consider the legal, social and practical implications, I believe that those concerns were justified. For example, one of the claims previously put to Council was that Murphy's Crossing Road was, and I quote, a major through road providing the only practical route between two significant roads. But we now know that this is not the case. The road is not a through road, and there are alternative routes between Bents and Nundubbermere roads that are both safer and faster. I acknowledge that many people who wish to see the road reopened value it for recreational four-wheel driving access, and I do respect that point of view and that recreational use. However, as Council, we cannot ignore the evidence provided by neighbouring landholders, lessees and police regarding unsafe and unlawful behaviour occurring in the area. Tragically, a fatality has also occurred. And while the vast majority of users may act responsibly, the reality is that unsafe practices by some individuals have created significant risks that Council cannot overlook. Importantly for me in this issue have been concerns raised about emergency access, but these seem to have been addressed. Written advice from both the police and the rural fire services at either end of the road reserve confirms that they have no objection to the temporary closure remaining in place. This is not a decision for me in about denying recreation or disregarding community interest. It's a decision about acting responsibly, lawfully and with public safety in mind. And for those reasons, I support the temporary closure remaining.
Thank you, Councillor Hustler. Do we have a councillor who's speaking against the motion today? Councillor Richters.
Yeah, I'll be not supporting the recommendation, and for me it comes down to public benefit and public access, and Murphy's Crossing Road is a public road reserve, it's not private land, and I accept that there's practical issues around the condition of the road, etc. But those concerns can be alleviated through actions that Council make on many other roads. So I'll be supporting the idea of expanding tourism and adventure-based tourism in our region, because it's one of our growing industries and it's what's important for our region. That's all I have to really say about that.
Thank you. Councillor McDonald, are you speaking for the motion?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
This has been a particularly challenging decision for me. In fact, I was mulling it over last night in between being asleep and being awake. I would, however, place this decision into a specialist category. It does not fit neatly into any particular box. There are mitigating circumstances which must be considered. Whichever way the decision goes, some will be unhappy with this decision. There's no two ways about it. In this case, some consideration must be given to the history of the matter, and I thank the staff, in particular Angela O'Mara, for answering some of the questions that I asked. Some of them were challenging questions. In 2013, Council approved Lot 91 BNT 538 for 21 dwellings and short-term accommodation and private outdoor hunting and fishing. In addition to this, private residential recreational hunting, shooting, fishing was established over Lot 14 BNT 36, Lot 10 BNT 313 and Lot 92 BNT 538 for non-commercial recreational usage. I'm not 100% sure that the Tartini Junior Slam fits into this particular category, where junior shooters hunt 5 different species to gain the shield. However, this is an operational matter. It is not for me to make a decision on, and that is for our staff to determine. It would appear if the road in question opened to the public, it may present a risk due to its poor conditions and the current operation of shooting activities on the surrounding land. Tartini Proprietary Limited has had approval in place for the last 25 years. However, the road closure in itself is only recent by comparison. The concern that I have is that if the road was reopened to tourist activities and an injury occurs, there are liability issues for this council at hand. Agriculture is our leading industry in SDRC. Weeds and feral pest control in the Australian agricultural industry take a toll of about 5.3 billion per year. In the most recent federal budget, and this is important, the government has now not renewed $60 million worth of support for supporting communities to manage pest and weed programs. There have been significant reductions. And as such, this will increase our future needs to eradicate feral pests. Sorry, I'm missing a page. 11 programs were actually cut. Of particular concern is the axing of the funding for the National Wild Dog Action Program. The federal government is claiming that fighting pests is not primarily a federal problem, and it is the responsibility of state and territory governments and landholders. The correct term for this is cost shifting, when the state or the federal government mandate that local councils take an additional responsibility for infrastructure or maintenance, but fail to provide any corresponding grants and revenue. That being said, the Sporting Shooters Association of Australia teaches and mentors both adults and youth in hunting and shooting skills to reduce feral populations of animals such as pigs, dogs, rabbits, deer, and foxes. Clearly, these need to be reduced. Our farming youth in particular needs an environment to learn these skills. Given the lack of responsibility taken by our federal government, I can only see more properties such as these increasing in the future with a basic need to eradicate our feral pests. We as a council must ensure, where possible, that the public is safe and not placed in a dangerous situation with poor roads and making passage on a road which may have close proximity to where live ammunition is being expended. I understand this decision may not be pleasing to some. However, it is our job as councillors to consider all circumstances, mitigating or otherwise, and factors, and make a decision that's in the best interest of our community. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor McDonald. Are there any other councillors speaking against the motion? No. Does anyone of the council want to speak for? Councillor Bartley?
Thanks, Mayor. Look, we've got 1,600 plus kilometres of gravel road within our region, and I'd suggest we've got more non-constructed road reserves in the region. If we were to bow to every request to open those road reserves for general traffic, it would create a nightmare for this council. Those road reserves sit there, I guess, if it was ever to happen and they were all closed and we could collect rates over that amount of land, we'd be a very viable council, but they are there for reasons. Most of them are untrafficable and do have hazards on them, and I've always been of the opinion to encourage landowners that adjoin those roads to put in permits to occupy with the department so that there aren't unnecessary vehicular movements on hazardous road reserves, which are the property of the state government, but we control what works are done on them. It's an issue that will continue on, particularly with this movement of wanting to find these tracks that don't get much traffic and have the, shall we say, the experience of driving on difficult to navigate roadways. I think it's a credit to our staff for sticking with the original recommendation of 2021, where 3 councillors in this chamber voted to close, and now we have this situation, and I think nothing's changed. If anything, the road's in worse repair, so why would you open it for any sort of access? I may not get a koala sticker out of taking this position on this matter, But if we were to listen to people and suggest that we should just cater for a minority that want access at the risk of the majority, it's as Councillor Haslett said, it's a serious matter if we start not understanding obligations as elected people to mitigate risk. I think our staff have a wise recommendation here that basically limits our exposure financially and legally, and I would support it wholeheartedly.
Thank you, Councillor Hartley. Any other councillors want to speak for the motion? Councillor Watley?
Thanks, Mayor. This would have to be one of the hardest decisions I've had to make since being elected as a councillor. I know the road. I've travelled the road by bike and four-wheel drive. I've spoken with landholders, national parks, police, rural fireys and others trying to find a solution. I've read every document twice, looked over Google Earth more times than I can count, and read every submission. I understand the tourism argument. I'm heavily involved in tourism myself, so I don't dismiss that lightly. But I keep coming back to one thing, the current standard of this road and the safety of the people who would use it. Importantly, this is not just my concern. Council officers themselves have recommended against opening this road in its current condition due to significant safety and maintenance concerns involved. If this road is opened, we're not just talking about one or two vehicles. We're talking about possible access by motorbikes, four-wheel drives, horse riders, push bike riders and bushwalkers. Parts of this road are already close to impassable. With increased traffic, it will deteriorate further. We've seen what high recreational use can do in places like Sundown National Park, and it is a maintained area. My concern is this: at what point are we back here arguing over who is responsible for maintaining a dangerous and deteriorating track? 6 months ago, I was contacted by an adjoining reserve where campers and squatters had left a terrible mess. It took trucks and bobcats to clean it up, and at the leaseholder's expense. I do not want to see the same burden placed on nearby property owners. I've genuinely looked for every possible option. I've tried to work out how this could be made fair for all parties. I also believe there may be merit in interested parties, clubs, user groups, leaseholders and relevant agencies sitting down together in the future to see whether a safe, practical and properly managed access arrangement could be achieved. But in its current condition, I cannot in good conscience support opening this road to public access. For me, this comes down to safety, responsibility and the very real consequence of opening a road that is not currently fit for the level of use. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Watley. Any other councillors? Councillor Pigeon?
Thank you. I acknowledge that this is a highly contentious issue within the community with strong views on both public access and land management concerns. As a councillor, I believe it is important that council carefully balances community expectations, safety, road conditions, legislative requirements and long-term regional outcomes when considering this matter. This is not a simple issue, but my focus is on ensuring the decisions made fairly, responsibly and in the best interests of the broader community.
Councillor Dean?
Thank you, Chair. This isn't an easy decision, like many other councillors have expressed this morning, because I can see both sides. However, we have recently been informed that emergency services do indeed have access to the property if need be. We also have a large network of roads that we struggle to maintain, so I don't think it's advised that we add another one to the list and put a further burden on ratepayers. And because of the reports given by police of illegal behaviour and a fatality occurring on this road, because of its poor conditions, I will be supporting the recommendation by staff today.
Thank you, Councillor Dean. Councillor Nundubbermere?
At the risk of just repeating what everybody else has already said, which I won't do, but I will say that I think this has been definitely fairly assessed, and I do highly recommend the staff as well. And both parties have been listened to. They've had an opportunity, both parties have presented to us so that we can hear both sides of this and to help us make an informed decision. And Councillor Watley's right, when you get into this situation and you have to make a really tough decision because you do know how both sides feel, and we can see what the repercussions will be. Whichever way we go, we know we're going to upset somebody, and it is very hard when you become a councillor and you have to make that tough call. But that's why it is tough, even for me, even though I'm not as closely connected with that area. It's still tough because we have heard all parties, and it makes it very difficult, but I will be supporting the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Windle. I'll speak for the motion. Like many, I've found this a really difficult decision to make, because on the one hand, there's a clear desire from the community and tourism operators for more trails and drives in our region, and I personally do want to see that happen, and I'm sure it will be under discussion during our tourism strategy over the next few months. But with any proposal, we need to balance the benefit to the community against the cost to the community. The principles in our draft corporate plan, which we have tested with the community, are very relevant to this decision. In particular, our community strongly supported that we maintain before we expand, and that we put the region before the individual. These principles aim to create a consistent and practical framework for setting priorities, supporting long-term financial sustainability and fair outcomes across the Southern Downs. And based on these principles, I don't believe that Murphy's Crossing Road provides the answer to tourism trails and drives for a number of reasons. The main one is actually practical. The road reserve for Murphy's Crossing Road finishes on the north bank of the Severn River, and there is no connection to Bents Road. This means it is accessible only from Nundubbermere Road and is a dead end at the Severn River. It is not a major through road. To get to Bents Road requires crossing through 2 private properties on a track without an existing road reserve. To open this as a road would require resumption from these 2 owners, and it is difficult to see how this could be done compulsorily. Given the sentiment of the neighbours, it seems unlikely it would be done by consent, and any acquisition would be a cost. The largest potential costs arise because the road is off alignment at many points. This would require a proper survey, but looking at mapping, it looks like it is off alignment in at least 8 locations. To survey the road and bring it back on alignment would be a significant cost to council. The owner can restrict access to their private property, so opening the road would have no real effect, as it would simply be closed as soon as the road went off alignment into private property. This has the potential to create conflict between the owners and road users, and council would, through our experience with other roads in the region, be called in to expend time and money in dealing with this conflict. The response from the owner, from police, Rural Fire Service and neighbours is that they do not want this road reopened. From other roads in the region where there is conflict between road users and residents, it is clear that these situations need to be very carefully managed, and everyone has to be on board for it to be successful. From the input we have, this may be a very long process in this case, if it happened at all, to have all stakeholders positively supporting the proposal as a tourist track. From a legal perspective, given that council is aware of accidents, reopening the road does not unfortunately come at no cost to council. We have been advised that we would need to take reasonable steps to ensure the road is in a suitable condition for the traffic, which may at a minimum involve inspections and installing signage. Given that the advice from DTMR is that installing speed limits on gravel roads is generally not supported, we may also not have the mechanisms we need to ensure road safety for users. The potential liability to council and therefore to ratepayers is not something that I'm willing to take on, given the terrain this road covers and the fact that much of the track is currently impassable. Our insurance costs may increase, and even if we can successfully defend claims, the time and cost of defending them would be an unnecessary burden on ratepayers. This was a very complicated matter, and I would like to thank staff for working through the many aspects, ensuring that the owner and community members could present to council and ensuring that we had technical and legal advice on all of the issues. It has taken significant staff time, and so I would also like to thank those members of the public whose own matters were impacted for being patient with the staff in that department. I also believe that the community did not feel properly engaged in the previous decision, nor understand it. I hope that we have ensured that they have had the opportunity to speak to both sides of this matter, and that our reasons for our decision will be clear to all parties. Thank you. Councillor Hustler, do you want any reply?
Thank you. I'll be very brief because I think everybody said made very different points, all very clearly and very well. I'm interested to learn more about koala stickers, Councillor Bartley. I think they sound fun. But no, on a serious note, I think just on a larger, looking at it from a larger perspective here, there are quite a few other roads within the region that run through private property. And I think this, when we look at tourism strategies going forward, we need to be very mindful that if there's a gate on a road, that gate, if you open it to go through it, you need to close it behind you. I know that is a big issue for a lot of farmers who have public roads that run through their properties, is that people who don't understand farms don't close gates behind them, and that causes a lot of issues. It's a simple thing, but that's where while we need to look at tourism alongside rural land use, there are a lot of simple and small things like that I think we need to be really careful of, and just make sure that we're very strategic in how we decide which roads should be open to the public and which shouldn't, and where they go. Thank you.
Okay, going to a vote on that. Those in favour? That's Councillors McDonald, Pidgeon, Haslett, Wantling, Bartley, Dean, Windle and Hamilton, and those against, Councillor Richters. Thank you. Moving on to item 13.3, we have a recommendation that pursuant to section 99(1) of the Land Act 1994, Council objects to the application for a permanent road closure over road reserve between Kenilworth Street and Grove Avenue, Morgan Park, being adjacent to Lot 3 on SP 218449. The CEO or delegate be authorised to respond to and answer the questions posed by the department, and the CEO or delegate be authorised to finalise easement conditions and sign proposed survey plans resulting from any closure the Minister approves. Councillor Haslett, are you happy to move that again as portfolio holder?
Sure. Yes.
And a seconder? Councillor McDonald, thank you. Over to you, Councillor Haslett.
Just with this one, I just find it interesting reading it. The state government has asked about this question before, but they didn't act upon Council's recommendation, which was provided in 2023. Now seeking Council's views on essentially the same matter, but with some slight modifications. This is a situation where it appears to me that Council's have already clearly expressed its opinion on this matter. And this seems to just be creating unnecessary administrative burden and duplication to me. So I find it a difficult one to comprehend why it's coming back to us, to be honest.
Does anyone want to speak against the motion? Councillor Richters?
When I've looked at this, I really don't understand what the purpose of that road reserve was in the first place. And so I would actually support an application to permanently close it, and I'd also not support the state government's desire to want to leave what effectively becomes a useless little strip of land down the side of it. So my actual opinion is that we should be supporting the permanent closure of it, and we should be asking the state government to not pursue the 10 metre area. The road really serves no purpose. There's a road literally within metres of it that does the exact same thing. It seems to me it's like it's just a legacy hangover from some past subdivision at some point. And the 10 metre strip wouldn't provide any meaningful benefit based on the land ownership around that area and the other adjoining lots of land that would be in the exact same position. So
Councillor Richters, can I just be clear, because what you've said is what is on page 88 in the staff recommendation. So are you voting against or?
Well, I'm voting against the recommendation that we object to the application for permanent road closure. Because that's what it's written in the recommendation. It says that we object to the application for permanent road closure over the road reserve. Whereas I don't object to the permanent road closure.
Yeah, I think we might need to ask staff, because my understanding was that we were doing that to come to the suggestion from staff, but yes, but the staff report of what on page 88, the last paragraph. Yes, so if the staff asked us to support the formulation, yeah.
I'm very unclear now too, because I agree exactly with what Joel said, but I thought that's what this was recommending, that we reject the keeping of the little strip.
Could I suggest then we adjourn this item? Come back to it.
Yes, I was just gonna ask, did anyone want an adjournment at this
I'll
point?
move an adjournment.
Yeah, move an adjournment, all in favour? Yes. It's unanimous, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you and welcome back. We have Anthony here to answer the question that was just put before to break.
Thank you, Mayor. The question that was put to council related to, there were 4 particular questions which are in the report, and essentially whether council supported the closure of most of the road reserve with the retention of a 10-metre wide strip. The officers are not supportive of that proposal. For the reasons in the report, we don't support the retention of the 10-metre wide road reserve strip in this instance. So that is why the recommendation is against the proposal to take the entire reserve. Council Wood officers are very supportive of the entire reserve being closed. Have no objection to the entire reserve, but the 10-metre wide strip, which is essentially a driveway for one lot, is it's a cost burden for council without any real benefit to the community in the view of officers.
Are there any questions on that?
Given that there's misunderstanding there, it would be wise to, because I think that that's clarified it, thank you, to the officer, but there is misunderstanding amongst us as council as to how that's written in the recommendation. Should we move an amendment to just clarify that point that whilst not, we don't want to keep the little strip there, we might want to have a permanent closure of the lot, or is the whole lot of it, or is that not something you can do in one recommendation? Does that have to be done separately?
Yeah, you can move an amendment. I would say that items 2 and 3, and given the report and the discussion of the room, the CEO or delegate can respond to and answer questions posed by the department. So if you move an amendment motion, it would be embedded in the resolution, but without it, I think it still works because of 2 and 3 to me. But do you want to move?
Well, I understood it
As
as the officer has just explained it, so I don't feel like it is ambiguous, but Councillor Richards didn't read it that way, so.
I'd like to propose an amendment just to item number 1 that says that council supports the application for a permanent road closure and objects to the proposal from the state government. Because the application is from the applicant and we're being asked for an opinion on that, as I see it.
Through you, Mayor, can I please ask a question through the General Manager into our Manager of Governance? Would that proposed amendment provide completeness?
Perhaps council objects to, council would support a permanent road closure of the entire reserve, but does not support the retention of a 10-metre road reserve.
I think that's nice and clear.
I think clarify that for you.
Would clarify. So your amendment motion, Councillor Richards, the wording, if you could just make sure that the wording
It does not support the retention of the.
Yeah, the 10-metre strip.
The 10-metre puzzle.
We need to include as proposed by the state government. No.
So that would be a 10-metre road reserve, not plus the land.
If I can ask another question, Chair, through the General Manager to the Manager, do we need to make reference to the easement?
Through item 2, that would be dealt with as part of the response. So the reasons in the correspondence would include the full reasoning, the full answers to the 4 questions that were posed to council, and certainly the note that council would require easements to protect its underground infrastructure if the integrity of the road reserve was, or if the minister was to grant it.
that wording as it is.
It's changing as we speak.
Yep, okay, so Councillor Richter has moved that amendment. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Haslett, thank you. Does anyone want to debate that amendment, or are you happy to move to a vote? All in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Okay, back to the motion as amended, where we had Councillor Haslett and McDonald. And you had spoken to the motion. Yes, Councillor Haslett, yes, and Councillor Richter had spoken against. Does anyone else want to speak for the motion?
With your indulgence, Mayor, given that the resolution has now changed, I'm going to be speaking in favour of the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Richter. Does anyone else want to speak against the motion? Happy to go to a vote on that, all in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. Moving on to item 14.1, we have a recommendation that Council approve the introduction of the modified water restrictions for the Stanthorpe water supply as detailed in this report, and approve that the water restrictions will currently only apply to the Stanthorpe water supply. I will move that motion. Have the second, Deputy Mayor, thank you. Okay, firstly, I'd like to thank the Stanthorpe community who have already started responding to our current conditions and are being very water wise, and in fact their current usage is sitting below where these levels would be. So this what we're proposing at the moment is not going to necessarily require a change in what people are doing, but I think that the Stanthorpe community are giving us an overwhelming message that they believe council should be acting proactively and prudently to make the most of our water supplies. And given our forecasts, I think this is the prudent measure. While we have had, and hopefully over the next 2 days are having some welcome rain, this will fill tanks, but it is not the level that we need to change the outlook across the region on the dry conditions. I think this ensures that we're taking a responsible approach to water management, and it is on us as council to support residents, businesses and tourism in the region by a measured approach that shows how much we value water and that keeps us open for business and for visitors. While we are one region, applying this only in Stanthorpe will mean that council can continue to get the water revenue we need in the north for the infrastructure upgrades that we need to do in the water and wastewater infrastructure space. I'd like to again thank the Premier for committing to provide water security for Stanthorpe. What we need to do at council is to demonstrate that we are ready to work in partnership with the Queensland Government to finally deliver this for our region, and that means playing our part as being the prudent water manager for the region. Thank you. Would anyone like to speak against the motion? No. Anyone else speaking for the motion? Councillor Wonton?
Yeah, can I just commend the staff on this report? As you know, water is a very important issue in our region. Can I just ask one question? By implementing these restrictions now, have we got an idea of what additional time we'll have?
Good question.
Yes, Councillor, we're modelling that at the moment, pending the outcome of the decision today.
Okay, thank
you. Yes, Councillor.
I'm happy for the Deputy Mayor to go.
Look, I think this is a good move and people will be pleased to see this. I think there's already anxiety out there within the community, and rightfully so, after the experience that particularly Stanthorpe had in the previous drought. It's still very fresh in people's minds, and I know a lot of people have never stopped taking precautions and kept restrictions in place anyway, because they wanted to do everything they could to try to prevent the usage of water. And I also know that there's people in the northern end of the region who have continued to do that too. I know one lady who is 80 and she still collects water out of her shower. She's never stopped doing that. to use it to water on her garden. She said herself, you know, she's learned so much from all that and how important it is, and she will continue to do that even at her age. So I think that people are very, very well aware of water usage, and they do take precautions most of the time. So this is a good step, and hopefully that we will all support that from our end of the region as well.
Councillor Richards.
Thanks, Mayor. I understand why we're doing this, and although it's still going to be felt by the residents of Stanthorpe about again being singled out for the outcomes of their region. To me, it's incredibly disappointing that more than 2 years ago, the regional water assessment was concluded, and yet there still has been nothing done about, or nothing practically done about progressing the business case for a pipeline that connects Warwick to Stanthorpe. And that is a critical part of ensuring that we don't need to do this into the future. You know, it also is you know, broadly connected to the failure of the state government to recognise that our region needs the pipeline from Toowoomba. And delaying that is, I hope many people will remember who delayed that, because I feel like we are heading towards another disastrous drought. And for the people in Stanthorpe who went through the last drought, those scars are still very evident. And I didn't even live in Stanthorpe during the last drought, and it still affects me about the things that I've seen and heard during that time. So, so obviously I support the recommendation, but there needs to be way more than this done.
Thank you, Mayor. In the April meeting, there was a letter tabled in correspondence regarding the pipeline, and it referenced triggers in it. And I asked a question in that meeting of, did we have any indication of what those triggers might be? And while I respect that this is a council trigger, not a state government trigger, it is my hope that this will actually help in the advocacy work to the state government to make it clear what those triggers are and how much water security is needed in our region. But I also, being a Stanthorpe resident myself, back what's been said by others already, that most Stanthorpe people, certainly the ones who were here in the last drought, newcomers might be a different story, but this won't change our household behaviours. We're already conserving water. We do it as habit now. It is simply what we do because we know the seriousness of this situation.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald, then Councillor Bartley.
Yeah, Mayor, I think I made it extremely clear in the correspondence section what my feelings are with regards to this. We're a first world country. I did not want to see us go back into the same situation, one of the longest droughts I've ever seen in my entire lifetime, and a lot of people up and down the east coast of Australia had to live through that drought. And Stanthorpe has 5,000 people down there, and they deserve to have potable drinking water and a supply no different to any other town in Queensland or Australia. If we have to put bum restrictions, yes, that's a measure that we take as a local council, but this is a state responsibility, and it lies squarely with them to assist us, and I remind them, and if we need to, I'm happy to write to the state and the federal members in regards to this. With the amount of work that was done in advocacy in the last drought, they should, and they certainly were aware, and they did have plans, and the fact that they've been postponed at this critical moment, to me, is unacceptable. I find it absolutely unacceptable. And I'm really glad that the Mayor has put her main focus now, while we all have changed our portfolios, into securing water for this region and ensuring that we have that security going forward in the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, it highlights the fact that we haven't got enough water, considering the amount of growth of population that's occurred in this region, the amount of development that's occurred, and it's only stated this morning the amount of population growth, particularly in Stanthorpe, third most popular or desirable place to live in Australia. So it's going to continue to grow, and we've got a 1957 built piece of infrastructure trying to supply the water supply. In 2004, Stanthorpe ran out of water, and they were within hours of railing water. They weren't going to truck it, they were going to rail it. We had one event in one night and filled Storm King Dam from 0 to 100%. So that tells you it's not a very big dam of any significant capacity considering the population growth. And I think that's being left out of the equation all the time, the amount of population growth we're enduring in this region.
Councillor Bartley, any other councillors? Councillor Dean?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I would like to echo what the other councillors have said in this room, that I support this recommendation by staff to restrict some water in Stanthorpe. However, like many other councillors have said, we need a solution for our region. Although we are having rain at the end of the week, it's not going to be enough to get us out of the situation, and drought will be on our doorstep before we know it. So I really would like to encourage the Minister and the state government to really amp up their seriousness about the spot that we're in.
Thank you, Councillor Dean. Councillor Mitchell?
I just echo the words that are around the room. There's no point getting to a situation and thinking, what should we be doing? We should be forward planning. That is our job. And the advocacy work that you're doing, I commend you, and I hope that the state will hear the words within the room today.
Thank you, Councillor Pigeon. Look, I have to say, I think the unanimous view in this room is really heartening to see us all as a council supporting this, and all knowing that us working together is going to get our community the results that we want, and that is the key really to I think the water security advocacy. I think we all know how great this region is. We back it, we particularly back it in terms of the growth that Councillor Bartley was referring to. And I think as we do our growth strategy as well over the next year, we will have some really concrete numbers as well to show the state as to why they need to ensure that they're here backing us and backing the growth of this region, because it is really going to have significant growth over the next 10 years. Happy to go to a vote on that. All in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. Moving on to item 14.2, we've got a recommendation that Council resolves to endorse proposed amendments to policy PL IS 092, infrastructure and public place naming policy. Councillor Hustler, are you happy to move that as portfolio councillor, and a seconder? Councillor Watling, thank you. Councillor Hustler.
This seems to be a really sensible and practical proposal, and it looks like it would improve efficiency of a process which can currently be quite slow and I imagine frustrating for parties involved, so I think it's great. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Hustler. Does anyone want to speak against the motion? No. Does anyone else want to speak for the motion? Councillor Watling.
Just questions?
Yep.
Yeah. So down on the alternate name register, how will the names be added to the alternate name register?
Thank you, Councillor. We are collecting names as we get names submitted. We are also using previous councillor names of honour boards and other honour boards around the region.
And will councillors have visibility to those names based on that?
That was a yes. Okay. Councillor Winters?
And my only question is in 4.73, where it says where a name is proposed in political policy, then officers will provide a brief to council. Should officers not brief councillors regardless of whether a name is proposed in the original request?
We normally do, councillor, yes. We'll bring the application to you.
Anyone else, councillors? Happy to go to a vote on that. All in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Moving on to item 15.1. We've got a recommendation that council receive the minutes of the Pest Management Advisory Committee meeting held in Warwick on Thursday, 26 March 2026. Councillor Pigeon, are you happy to move that as the chair of that meeting?
Yes.
Yep. And Councillor McDonald seconding, thank you.
Thank you. I just want to acknowledge the pest and biosecurity management that is going across the region at the moment. The staff have done a great job in educating and bringing to attention. I would also like to congratulate the community members for their role that they're starting to play in learning to work with council and helping educate that wider community that are coming into the area. I understand long-term success in managing pests and biosecurity can only be achieved when everyone works together and shares their responsibility. And I understand that this is not an issue that's going to go away overnight. So it's going to be one that is going to need collaboration and a long-term approach. But I would just like to thank the staff, the landholders and volunteers that are all working across the region.
Councillor McDonald?
Yes, Mayor. As I indicated early, I have some great concerns in regards to what the federal government has put down range in regards to restricting funding for feral animals in particular, and then claiming that fighting pests is not primarily a federal problem but is state and territory or individual landholders. I absolutely disagree with this. I will quite happily take this to the next meeting, and I'm hoping that I'll be supported by my colleagues around the table, because it just comes down to something as simple as one case, as Councillor Pigeon said to me, one case of foot and mouth in this nation, or swine flu or otherwise, and we have a major national problem with our agricultural industry. It cannot be understated. The fact that they have closed down 11 different programs that were actually designed to assist us or to assist particular groups that were dealing with these problems. We have now native animals that are also at risk. I have a farm that's nearly overrun by pigs every night because I'm in close proximity to a feedlot, somewhere near on 1,000 a night. And I went camping with my son on the weekend to listen to the wild dogs howling literally all night in my mountains. Now, this shouldn't be the way it is. So I will ensure and endeavour to do my absolute best in the new job that I've been given as a portfolio to advocate for the Southern Downs, in conjunction with obviously the Mayor and my colleagues around the table, knowing that agriculture is such a huge industry here. And I absolutely disagree with PM Albanese in regards to these cuts that have been brought down range in the last federal budget. Thank you.
Councillor McDonald? Councillor Richters?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I along the same veins of what Councillor McDonald has just said, I'm also disappointed to see that many of the direct funding initiatives that the federal government have previously ran are not being continued after the next budget cycle. I would have preferred to see that, and I don't disagree with the point that pest management and pest management is effectively a state government responsibility. The federal government's responsibility is protecting our borders, and it's good to see that they're not changing any of our import or export biosecurity measures, but still I would have preferred to see some time given and some new initiatives put in place by the federal government to move some funding to the state government so that they could pick that up rather than just leaving that void there. We've already talked today multiple times about the impact of feral animals in our region, and I hope that we can be part of that solution, but we can't be the bearer of it. It's not a cost-shifting measure that we can absorb, nor can our ratepayers.
Just one thing. I understand Councillor McDonald, I listen to dogs howl at night, most nights as well. Yeah, it's pretty eerie. But my question is, are we seeing a rise in the amount of dog bounties being handed in? It's 366 there at the moment.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Through the chair, yes, we are.
I wanted to I was really impressed that the amount of roadside treatment has been increasing from staff. I think that's really great because that's often an area that's raised by our ratepayers, so it's good to see some additional efforts being put in there. And good to see that we've had some positive feedback from those feral pig forums, because the more that we can get landholders working together and being educated on the best way to deal with that, the better. But we do need it backed up by on-the-ground funding, really. So absolutely supportive, Councillor McDonald, of you taking that on in your new portfolio and supporting you in doing that.
Thank you, Mayor.
Anyone else? No? Happy to go to a vote? Those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. And we have item 15.2, a recommendation that Council receive and note the minutes from the Southern Downs Youth Council induction day on 26 March 2026. Councillor Hustler, are you happy to move that as?
In my last time, yes.
And a second, Councillor
Yeah,
Kitchen?
thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. So Youth Council 2026 is going exceptionally well, I believe. It's building on everything we learned from the 2025 program. And this year's program, I believe, is really going from strength to strength. In fact, I would say that this year's cohort is already now at a similar point in their development, their confidence and their engagement to where last year's group was at the end of the program, at the end of the year. And they still have another 2 meetings to go. And that's a real credit to Sue and the hardworking Southern Downs team. The increased support and facilitation from Peer Power this year, and most importantly to the students themselves, whose enthusiasm and commitment continue to grow at every meeting. It's a genuinely exciting space to be part of, and one that gives me a great deal of optimism about the future of young people in our region. I look forward to working with Councillor Pigeon during the handover of this program following today's portfolio reshuffle. And I have every confidence that the program will continue to thrive under her guidance.
Any other councillors want to speak to this one? Councillor Pigeon, then Councillor Wendell.
I would just like to acknowledge all the work that has been done in this space, and providing the young people with a voice in local issues is so important in building strong, connected communities. I would like to thank Councillor Haslett for her hard work and commitment within this portfolio, particularly her support for youth engagement and community participation. I would also like to acknowledge staff, schools and community members who continue to support these programs and encourage the young people involved in the decision-making process.
Thank you. Yeah. Councillor Haslett, you will still be able to.
You're gonna go anyway, mate.
And I know, I understand exactly what you're saying. I mean, the Youth Council's been a part of my, not my role, but it's part of what I like to do within council. So it's one of the good things that we get to do, and it's very pleasing and very rewarding. Those students never cease to amaze me, and I've watched them grow year after year after year. So I know that you'll still be a part of it, but I congratulate you on what you've done. And it's been another thing that I'm really pleased to see is that Peer Power will be more involved this year, and I think that's an excellent move. Well done. And hand over to Councillor Pigeon. It'll be great. You'll enjoy it too. Thanks.
Councillors?
I'm not quite sure that Councillor Haslett will have time to participate in ongoing youth council meetings, given the number of road issues we have across our region.
I have no comment.
I would like to say it was really good to see the Youth Council being involved in that recent engagement exercise that we did, and I see a lot of opportunities for us to make sure that we are using Youth Council to get feedback from a group that we often don't hear from in council, and their views are really helpful and informative in the decision-making process. So I'm looking forward to seeing that continue as well. Going to a vote on, reply, Councillor
Just
Hosford?
very quickly, interestingly, this year, one of the chosen topics of the students is roads.
What did you do to them?
I feel like
Okay,
that was
councillors, going to vote on that one. That's unanimous, thank you. We have no reports, confidential or general, so I declare the meeting closed at 11:20 AM.